Hi, I'm Leanne Ely. I'm a nutritionist, a New York Times best-selling author, and some people even say I'm a life coach. I started the Daily Dish Show to share my story, my truth, and my journey to vibrancy, and to inspire others to do the same. Because it's all about grit, perseverance, and finding a way despite the odds. It's about embracing the whole woman, not just the parts that are easy to love, and feeding her heart, mind, body, and soul. But I found that this isn't just my story, it's your story too. It's go time. This is the Daily Dish. Why don't we dive into the material that we have for today? We have been talking all week about personal power. And I was thinking about this morning, and it's just like, how do you really grasp this? Once you get the idea, okay, this is personal power, how do you make sure that it keeps increasing? How do we do this? Because, we understand this, that any time that we put our focus on something, where our attention goes, energy flows. We know that, right? We also know that if we want to capitalize on something, and if we want to see something really become true and own it and have it be a part of who we are, then that's what we need to go. We need to understand that this personal power that we're talking about really is tapping into our higher self, because the two go hand in hand. They hold on to each other. That's exactly what works out. This is the thing that I know, that the awareness is the beginning of any process. When you become aware, then suddenly things start to change and things start to shift. And the reason that they do is because the awareness has brought it now to the forefront of our minds. Duh, right? But think about it. We've talked about high vibe. We've talked about low vibe. We've talked about what high vibe feeling feels like versus the low vibe stuff. And we've talked about energy and how even, this quote deck has a vibration to it versus my dog. Higher level of vibration, and it can be measured. We know all of that, and it's super interesting. The same with our thoughts. They've actually measured thoughts, and the lower vibe stuff, it just pulls you down because it's way, way, way down there. And the higher vibe stuff, boy, doesn't it make you feel good. I know we have that chart somewhere, and maybe we can put that out in tomorrow's show notes. And by the way, if you're not getting show notes, real easy to get your show notes. All you have to do is sign up for our newsletter at savingdinner.com. And we send the show notes out the next day. All kinds of good stuff there too. Just one email a day. That's all we send. And good stuff always in there. But anyway, this whole idea of vibrational living and energetic living is about personal power, because personal power has a lot of energy to it. And our higher self requires high energy, high vibration, and it makes you feel a whole lot different than living way down here. But did you know that you can also increase this whole idea of personal power? Because personal power increases with these four things. I've got four things for you, and then later I'm going to take you through how we can make it move even higher. Okay, so the first thing is that you think thoughts that are supportive of the very thing that you want. I mean, come on. This is what we talk about, this, where your attention goes, energy flows. Makes sense, right? So if you're completely 100% locked in on the problem and feeling bad and all of that, then that's where all your energy is going to go. And it's going to go down the tube, 100%. That's not living in your best life. That's not living in personal power. It's living in no power. It's living in low vibe. Number two is you act rather than procrastinate, because that action has all kinds of stuff, all kinds of significance attached to it. It says something to you. It says, yes, I can. It says, I am worth the effort. It says that this is the way we get to the place that we want to be. This is the pathway to vibrancy. Not doing anything and having all the 100,000 reasons why is how we stay down, and we don't live in that higher vibe place. And we don't live with our personal power, and we don't live the vibrant lives that we want. So I know this is just, it's like some basic stuff, but don't you need to hear it sometimes? I know that I do. I need to be reminded of this stuff, because it's really easy to have an old thing come your way and pull you down. It is. But when we start to look at the possibilities and start to look at some of this stuff, we can change our minds, literally change our minds, and start focusing on the things that really matter to us, that make our lives sing and not bring us down. So one of the other things is, number 3, is to choose love over hate. We live in a polarizing world. Have you noticed that? This world that we live in is just, it's sad. It's pathetic. Don't turn on the, don't turn on the news. It'll bring you down. But if we step in and out of the narrative in favor of love, this is how we improve our energy. We improve our energy. We improve our focus. We improve our personal power. And we start to think that, yeah, we do have some control over what's going on in our own little worlds. When you feel out of control, you lose your personal power. It goes and it escapes to all these other things that maybe intentionally don't mean to give your power away, but that's what happens. And it's zapping that you have nothing left to give. And if you have no energy, you have no personal power. You see how those two things work, go hand in hand? And number 4 is, thank you, Joanne. I love Joanne. She's always such a support. She says, yes, always need reminders. Thank you for that. Number 4 is to understand that there's a connection between your intellect, your spirit, and your will. We're all smart enough to figure this out. If we're exercising our prefrontal cortex, this is where the smart stuff comes, by the way. Hi, Kathy. This is the smart stuff. Hi, Corliss. Right here. Right back here is your monkey brain. Right back here is where all the, this reflex stuff comes. Oh, you want to make a bet on Facebook, having a duking it out with somebody who wants to talk about something that's controversial or whatever. That's the monkey brain stuff. That's the, come on, let's put up your dukes, let's fight. Versus understanding that what's going on here. Okay, this guy's a troll, or this is a conversation that's never going to go into an elevation. It's going to degrade into name calling, what have you. I've watched it years, and especially now, it's incredible what happens. And do you engage in that? Your intellect's going to tell you no. Your intellect's going to say, no, if I want to go to a higher level of being, if I want to be living my highest self, I'm just not going to engage. I'm not going to post that garbage. I'm not going to do this because it's just going to bring me down, and I'm going to spend my energy on something that's really, it's like talking in circles. It doesn't do a darn thing, does it? And your spirit, you have an alignment with yourself when you intellectually, you're understanding, and your will isn't being dragged out by somebody else or some other thing or whatever. If you've ever had a day where you look at the end of the day and you think, where did my day go? What happened here? You've given your will to someone else. You haven't said, this is my agenda. This is what I have to do. Now, again, blessed are the flexible, right? They will not be broken. We have to have a certain amount of latitude with what it is that we do. On the other hand, every time some Tom, Dick, and Harry comes along, it doesn't mean that we are obligated to answer some moron that comes along and decides that it's time to have a conversation with you about A, B, and C. I've had that before. I've had somebody choose me off in a Facebook message, and I just said, well, sorry, it was a vegan who just was so upset with me about something I had said. And I'm not going to engage, because intellectually I know where this will go, right? My spirit said, no, is this person even a person? That was also my intellectual part of my brain saying, is this a troll? And then the last part was my will. If I give this over, I'm giving into their will, not mine. There will not be a conversation. I said what I said, and I believe that. And I'm sorry if you don't agree. And that's the end of it. And of course, they kept coming on, and I blocked them. I just said, no, not going to do that. Now, years ago, I didn't do that. And years ago, I was just like, I feel adamantly about this, and it's important people know this. I'm not just the saving dinner diva. I also feel this, and this. And now I'm at the place where it's just, I have my own personal beliefs, and I feel strongly about them. I feel just like you do about yours. but I'm going to keep them all to my little self. And the people who are in my immediate world understand and know them. And that's enough. Because at the end of the day, I'm not going to engage with anyone who feels like they have the right to my time, because they don't. My time is precious and important because my time is my life. And I'm not going to give my life away to that stuff. James Clear says this: the more you create, the more powerful you become. Did you get that? The more you create, the more powerful you become. Because if you collaborate with your mind, with your spirit, and with your will, if you collaborate with all three of those, you ignite a creative process. You're finding solutions. You're figuring things out. You're not saying it's hopeless, I can't, it's ridiculous, it's this, that, and the other thing. No, you're starting to look for the solution. The creative process is ignited. That's exactly what happened. The more you create, the more powerful you become. You see this? That he's talking about your personal power. Your personal power is then, boom, you press that button and off you go. So those are the how-tos, really, kind of, or the wherewithal, shall we say, the things about personal power that we need to know about. But how do we then increase our personal power? If we're aware of it and we know all about it, how do we increase it? Have you thought about that? Have you had that conversation with yourself? The reason I ask this is because, again, awareness brings to mind and brings to the intellectual part of your brain the ability to start sorting things out and bringing them together. It activates the reticular activating system and things start to come together. The hows and the why, the whys of why you're doing it, you've got that. And the hows start to just make themselves known. People show up, circumstances change, and it's amazing how things all come together. It is amazing how things all come together. So I've got some how-tos on how to increase your personal power and some questions then that you can ask yourself. So let's see what you think about this. Do you know who you are and what you stand for? That is such a basic thing, but I will tell you right now, if I had a group of 10 people right now in this little room and I said, who are you and what do you stand for? Their jaw might just drop and just say, I don't know. What is your mission in life? What's your purpose? And again, we've spoken about purpose ad nauseum, and purpose fluctuates and changes. Your purpose might be raising little children. Your purpose might be taking care of your elderly parent right now. That could be your sole focus, really, and the biggest focus right now of your life. And it's a beautiful purpose. And at times it doesn't seem like that when you're wiping butts and wiping snotty noses and dealing with a meltdown. But it is. You're raising people to become a part of this world, or helping your parent have the best last years of their lives. This is a high work that we're called to. And when we know that what we stand for and what we're about, we also know what our purpose is, at least for this brief period of time. Things shift and things change. So one of the things you want to be doing is, remember this, that you've probably heard this before. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for everything. Have you heard that before? Ask yourself these questions like, what do I stand for? What do I believe? What are my values? Because your values are going to be dictated by what your life is now. Did you know that? It's going to be dictated by that. And ask yourself, are these my values, or are these values that I've been assigned? That's a tough one. It's a tough one because, I can, oh boy, could I tell you some stories about this whole assignment and playing on somebody else's stage in my life until I was in my 40s. There's a great awakening that happens when we open our eyes and start to take inventory about what is important to us, really. Not this whole world that we think that we're playing to, but what is important sincerely to you, yourself, as a person, as the one soul, the only soul that you have, that you can control, that you can figure out. You can't do that with your kids or your parents or even the closest people around you. your spouse. You can't. But for you can figure that out. You can figure it all out when you take the time to really sit with yourself and make it an absolute priority that this is important so that you can go forward, because it's a core value, the core value. Number 2 is, do you believe? You have to ask that question. Do I believe? Do you believe in what you're doing? Does your life have purpose and meaning? Does your work? These are things that we have to ask ourselves, because, in order to tap into our personal power, we need something to anchor us. And your life needs to be anchored 100% by your values, or you're just adrift with whatever comes along, with whatever someone wants to assign you and give you, And I'm going to tell you, I know exactly what that is. I remember being so fearful of what people would think if I fill in the blank. What are people going to think about me? What are they going to say about me behind my back? Life became completely different when I didn't give a rip. They're going to talk. They're going to do this. There is nothing anyone, any of us, can do to stop that. Because if they have nothing better to do with their lives than to gossip about you, let them have it. That's pathetic, and that's on them, not on you. Be free of other people's opinions of yourself, and believe in yourself, believe in your work, and do things that are attached to your values that have meaning, and everything will shift. That's a huge one, by the way. For me, it's changed my life. Number 3, look at your talent, your passion, your contribution, and these three things that will help you to realize your sweet spot. I think about this. I'm going to use Jenny again. I keep talking about Jenny, but she can handle it. But her sweet spot, she started this little business on the side. Now, I hope that doesn't sound condescending. I don't mean that. But right now she's got a little baby business that she just started. And she's reimagining crafting. I think that's a darling name. Crafting Reimagined is the name of her business. But think about it. What is that about? It's her talent, it's her passion, and it is her contribution to others to help them to realize their talents, their passions, their abilities. And I also say this as well. She's also doing this here on Saving Dinner. She has a talent stack that I'm not even close to. She keeps all the balls in the air. If she weren't here, I would I'd go hunt her down. And not only that, but she has a real heart and caring and love in her heart for all of those who we serve. And I can say the same thing about Amber. And I can say the same thing about Lindsay. This is why we call ourselves the Dream Team. What a blessing for me to be able to work with women like that. They've all realized their talents, their passions, and their contributions and how important they are. They affect lives. They change lives simply by showing up and going to work. Are you doing the same thing? Number 4. You ready? Seatbelt time. Show up as the true you. Show up every single day as who you are. Not what someone assigned you to be, not what they think you should be, not pretending everything is just great when it's not. We have to stop being people pleasers, y'all. A people pleaser is a woman without personal power. Did you hear me? A people pleaser is a woman without personal power, because the true you isn't that. That's just you doing the dance. That's the quick draw dance with the guns at your feet. You don't want to do that. You don't want to perform for others. You want to live a life that is full of passion, that is full of vibrancy, that is actually contributing to society and contributing to the well-being of those that are closest around you and yourself. You get to fit into the equation, So when you don't live a life that is your true you, you're living a drained life as a people pleaser. You're living a drained life devoid of having any kind of personal power. It's a life of pretend. And you know what? That's just a really kind way of saying you're living a lie. It's time to step into your personal power and to drop the pretend, to drop the lies, and to drop all of this, because it's exhausting. Have you noticed that? You have no passion for anything else when you're just putting on that happy face and putting on that mask. It doesn't work. And it takes all of your personal power away, and it goes all to them. And you know what? They're not even watching. That's the sad thing. So when we play so hard for this audience and they don't even watch, that's when things start getting crazy. Number 5 is the last one, and that is push your own buttons. When we allow other people to push our buttons, we're not living our true selves. We're not living in personal power. We're living, again, as a people pleaser, and we're also living somebody else's idea of what it is that we should be doing. I've been told that, I think I told you this story, a long time ago. I started this when I started Saving Dinner, and it was before it was called Saving Dinner, and I had this idea. And I had a pastor of a church who said, you shouldn't do that. What you should do is this. This is what my wife is doing. It's really contributing to our household, and this is what it is. You can't do that. That's too risky. That's too this and too that. Yeah, me. Can you imagine? Work for H&R Block. Me doing that. I'd be sued and in jail right now because I'm just so bad with numbers. But can you imagine somebody having the audacity to say that? Don't do that. I one time worked in an office where on the thermostat on the wall, it had duct tape all over it and had a sign posted, and it said, if you touch this dial, you'll die. If you push these buttons, you'll die. Basically, don't mess with the thermostat. We all need to have that sign on our lives. Don't push these buttons. I'm in charge of the thermostat. I'm in charge of the temperature of my life, right? What if somebody walked into your house, just an acquaintance, and they said, gosh, it's too hot in here. And they went over and changed the thermostat on your house and made it cooler, turned on the air conditioning or whatever. How would you feel about that? I think you'd probably be a little bit shocked and say, oh, that was like the rudest thing. Are you kidding me? And yet we allow these people to push the buttons of our lives all the time. They'll say something, them, exactly, and it's coming, and here it is, and boom, they do it, and boom, you go off. Well, when we do this, we lose our personal power, and we lose the ability to play, to deal from the intellect, and instead we're giving all of this up for this moron who's decided to come into our lives and push these buttons. You don't have to allow that to happen. Put duct tape over it. Put a sign over it. Touch these buttons and die. We all have the ability to do that. And yet, we'd flip out if they did it in our own homes. And yet we're allowing them to do this in our lives. That is a big way that we lose our personal power. So when you decide to lose your personal power, you have better choices, better outcomes, and a whole heck of a lot more vibrancy. But we got to get into this place of understanding exactly what it is that we need to be doing and what it is that we need to guard and how it is that we need to be thinking. Because that's what brings it all in, that presence of mind. It's a pretty incredible thing. And I hope that was helpful for you. Yeah, let me know. By the way, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for showing up. If this meant something to you and it was helpful, feel free to share it. Peace be with you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me today. You can find me on TikTok for daily tips to help support your most vibrant life. And remember, you are the author of your own story. Until next time.